In this video, I'm going to tell you about why you should visit the New England states during the foliage change, and I'm also going to tell you about 3 things that you should see or do while you're there. I went to New England recently, and it was my first time on the East Coast, and at first, I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, whoa. And then I was like, I cannot believe I've never seen this before. Being from the West Coast, I've only ever heard stories about how beautiful the foliage change is on the East Coast, specifically the New England states. I was fortunate enough to be able to spend a week there just photographing 2 New England states, that is Vermont and New Hampshire. And let me tell you, it blew me away. Every fall in New England, between the months of September and October, one of the world's greatest and most beautiful phenomenons happens. The leaves on the trees turn from green to various shades of yellow, orange, and eventually red. This happens because as the temperatures become colder and the nights become longer, the veins in the leaves become restricted and the already present natural sugars inside the leaves gets trapped. Eventually, it becomes so cold that the chlorophyll, the compound that gives the leaves their green color, begins to break down, and that is when the leaves truly show off their colors. While you are in New England, here are 3 things that you should check out if you want the authentic New England experience. The first thing that you're going to want to check out is the small towns. One of the first stops on our trip was the small town of Stowe. This is just one of many small towns in New England, but it is one of the first towns that we visited. Stowe is a town in northern Vermont and is home to between 600 and 800 people, which means you truly get a small town feel here. Known for its picturesque church, great foliage scenery, and all-around recreational activities, Stowe is a must-see on your New England trip. The little town of Stowe is an absolutely beautiful town, and we've been here about 30 minutes, and all the people that we've talked to have been super nice. There's lots of little stores to go check out, lots of little antique shops, and of course there's the famous church, and that's just back that way a little bit. It's a beautiful area, and it's definitely worth stopping and kind of looking around at some of the shops when you stop by here. Don't just take pictures of the famous sites, but also take the time to check out the local town, because it's definitely worth stopping by. One of the things that we did on our trip was check out some of the many stores that Stowe had to offer, including a general store. When we went inside, we saw a moose hanging from the wall, or a moose head, and then as we went downstairs, we saw all kinds of local mustards and candy that was laid out like a real candy store. And on top of that, we were able to buy some cheeses that tasted very good. And if you didn't know already, Vermont is known for their cheese. So if you get a chance, you're gonna wanna try that when you go to Vermont. The second thing you're gonna wanna check out on your New England foliage trip are the lakes, rivers, and covered bridges. Now, I group those all into one because oftentimes they are in close proximity to each other. The lakes are so beautiful and serene, especially during the foliage change, because the trees line the lake and the mountains surrounding them, so it looks like candy is covering the sides of the lake, and it is absolutely beautiful. The lakes here are so serene that one day you might want a lake house of your own so that you can enjoy these views every day. The rivers that connect the lakes stretch for miles, and depending on the rain in recent days, can either be calm and restful, or they can roar over the stones on the riverbed as they wind around the mountains. There are many places along the various highways, like the one here on the Concomungus Highway, where you can stop and take a look at the river. If you are lucky, you may find a couple waterfalls along the river where you can stop and take a few photos. As you explore the rivers, be on the lookout for one of the many cool and unique covered bridges, most of which were built in the 1800s. These bridges are all over, and if you wanted to, you can make an entire vacation out of just searching for bridges. The third and last thing that you should see and do while on your foliage trip to the New England states are gondolas. Since New England has a lot of ski resorts, gondolas are a great way to see the fall colors from above without having to hike to the top of mountains if that's not your thing or if you're not able to do so. I've made it onto the gondola and the views from up here are absolutely spectacular. You can see over the mountains and all of the fall colors. It's really, really beautiful. A pro tip if you want to get on this gondola is to buy your tickets ahead of time. If you show up and you haven't ordered your tickets ahead of time, you'll have to wait in the line because they don't sell day of tickets online. You have to buy them in person. So be sure to buy your tickets online in order to skip the line. If you're going to go do and see a gondola, what you want to do is check the weather ahead of time, because if you don't, although you might be able to see some of the colors when you're going up, when you get to the very top, you might run into this. As luck would have it, the day we came up to the top of the gondola, it's super foggy. There's about 50 feet of visibility before the fog just turns into a giant white cloud. But it was still fun coming to the top of the gondola. It's a bit cold right now, so we're gonna head back down to a lower elevation where we can see the colorful mountains again, and we're gonna continue our trip. As my first trip to the East Coast, which happened to be in the New England states for the foliage change, wrapped up, I sat down to reflect on the adventures that I had and had this to say. So far, the East Coast has been absolutely amazing. The scenery around here is gorgeous. Right now, most of the trees have already had their leaves changed completely, so we've got a little bit of yellow left and some green, as you can see behind me. But so far we've been able to view amazing viewpoints where the trees look like candy. We've got red, yellow, green, orange, and all shades in between. We've been able to visit all kinds of sites, different parks, different viewpoints. The aerial footage out here is just absolutely amazing. This is my first time on the East Coast and it did not disappoint at all. I mean, I absolutely love it over here. I hope that in the future I'm able to come back and explore more parks, more sites, and more beautiful places. New England has been absolutely amazing, and I'm looking forward to coming back in future years. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Alex Haney Adventures, and you already know it. I'll see you on the next one.